This is the Climate Change Dictionary, but this episode is a little different because today I am telling you a very old story. In fact, for the next 90 seconds, I won't even use the term climate change at all. So let's begin with August of 1608. This is when the East India Company came on our lands as traders. But the British soon got greedy and wanted more. Control over territory, people and resources. We had things that they did not. Spice, silk, cotton, indigo and much more. And before we even realized, we were a colony. A resource pool being exploited. Our resources were used for the growth of their homeland while our development was stifled. The Industrial Revolution, the genesis of industrial growth in the UK, was heavily supported by our resources. They had started their development, the building of machines, advancement of technology, burning of coal, and pollution of the planet. And these nations today are far more developed, technologically advanced, and rich compared to us. But while we were serving as a colony, did we not need these resources for ourselves? Of course we did, but their needs of development were supposedly superior and ours, not so much. Today, nobody needs our indigo or spices. Today, they need our potential future development. How? By encroaching our share of the finite carbon space, the space to emit carbon for purposes of development. And while the commodity has changed, the politics haven't. Our potential possibility of development is being snatched off so these already developed nations can develop even more. The commodification of carbon and therefore its colonization. Rich nations and the story of carbon colonialism. Very dramatic. Now I will explain how did this happen and what will this mean for countries around the globe. But first, to understand the importance of carbon emissions, climate actions, the political dynamics of the developing and developed countries, you need to watch our last 3 videos. The link to all 3 are in the description box below. So we know that while India and China do feature among the top polluters of the world, our per capita emissions are far less than the UK or US. Now let me explain what I mean by carbon colonialism by telling you another story. The story of George and Govardhan. George lives in the US and Govardhan lives in India. For context, George's per capita emissions are already far higher than they should be. He has a good life, access to luxuries and can also afford a vacation or 2 every year. While Govardhan's emissions are super low. He doesn't have a regular electricity supply in the house, no air conditioning, no hot water in the shower, or actually no water, no shower and no pipelines. So now George one day flies down to Govardhan's small little hut near his farm in a small village and tries to cut a deal. George says, buddy, listen, we are both woke, we know all about global warming, we've got to save the planet and we must cut down on our carbon emissions as much as we can. Govardhan nods. George asks him to assume carbon to be a coin of gold that all humans on the planet have. All humans are allowed 10 coins of gold. Each coin allows a certain level of carbon emission. George has spent tens of these coins in his life so far before these limits or conversations around it came into being, while Govardhan only maybe 6. George tells Govardhan that now he wants to buy a private jet. And since both care about the planet, he has figured out a way to save the planet and still buy his private jet. He tells Govardhan to give him 8 of his coins. If Govardhan gives these coins, George will have his private jet, but Govardhan will also have to say goodbye to that hot shower for life. And I don't know what you're thinking, but I am never calling this George to my party again. While Govardhan's emissions might be low right now, he needs to retain his supposed quota for carbon emissions or carbon space to ensure development in the future. His per capita emissions should go up because Govardhan deserves that hot water shower in his life that fixes everything. And why not? And more so, who are you to tell him that he does not? Anyway, you've clearly understood my point so far. Join the dots. George is the greedy, gaslighting developed world and Govardhan is the developing world. At the recently concluded COP26 in Glasgow, the UN Climate Change Conference, the spokesperson of LMDC, a group of like-minded developing countries, said that the principle of CBDR, or common but differentiated responsibility towards climate change, cannot change into common and shared responsibility, differentiating between the capabilities and responsibilities of Govardhan and George is a must, because when that is not done, Govardhan gets left behind, trampled on and exploited by a sure well-intended but certainly super selfish and greedy George. And this is carbon colonialism, and it manifests in different ways, like pushing developing countries to announce immediate net zero targets or lopsided conversations about achieving the 1.5-degree global temperature target while entirely ignoring the development needs of a large part of the world. Shifting the burden of responsibility towards developing countries simply goes against climate justice. And now that we've established that carbon is almost a commodity, like other commodities, it is being traded in markets, and there are also rules like Article 6 of the UNFCCC or the United Nations Framework for Climate Change that governs this trade. And this is what we will discuss in our next video: carbon markets, carbon trading, and Article 6. So keep watching.